You open your eyes and congratulations. You've just hatched as a baby marine iguana on a peaceful tropical island. Life should be simple. Swim around, munch on some seaweed, bask in the sun with your reptilian buddies. But then everything changes in the most catastrophic way possible when an atomic bomb detonates right above your head, flooding your tiny body with enough radiation to power a small city. Most creatures would die instantly. You don't. Instead, something far worse happens. You begin transforming into the most powerful and lonely being on the planet. Welcome to the nightmare existence of Godzilla, where being the ultimate apex predator means spending eternity as the universe's most miserable monster. Now I know what you're thinking. Being a 300-foot-tall radioactive lizard sounds pretty awesome, right? You can breathe atomic fire, tank nuclear weapons, and literally reshape continents just by walking around. But here's what nobody tells you about being an unstoppable force of nature. It absolutely sucks. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why unlimited power comes with unlimited suffering. But first, let me paint you a picture of just how devastating your transformation really is. That radiation doesn't just make you big and strong. It rewrites your entire genetic code in ways that violate every law of biology. Your cells start multiplying at impossible rates. Your bones become denser than steel. Your metabolism shifts to run on nuclear energy instead of food. Within days, you've grown from a tiny hatchling into something the size of a school bus, and the growing never stops. Your first major problem becomes immediately apparent. You're too big for your own world. That beautiful coral reef where you were born, you can't even approach it without accidentally destroying everything. Your footsteps create tsunamis. Your breathing generates underwater currents that devastate marine ecosystems. Simply existing becomes an act of environmental destruction, and there's nothing you can do about it. The hunger hits differently when your body runs on atomic energy. Regular food becomes completely useless. Fish, kelp, even whales taste like nothing to your mutated system. Your body craves radiation, the very force that created this nightmare. You find yourself absorbing energy from the water around you, but it's never enough. The constant gnawing emptiness in your core becomes your permanent companion. Then comes the discovery of your most famous ability, and trust me, it's not as cool as it looks in the movies. The first time atomic breath erupts from your mouth, you're just trying to yawn. Instead, you accidentally carve a massive trench in the ocean floor and boil thousands of gallons of seawater instantly. You have no control over it, no training manual for accidentally wielding the power of a nuclear reactor in your throat. Every time you try to communicate, you risk incinerating everything in front of you. Your senses become overwhelmingly powerful in the worst possible way. You can detect electromagnetic fields from hundreds of miles away. Radiation signatures burn into your consciousness like permanent headaches. The constant sensory input drives you to seek refuge in the deepest ocean trenches, but even there, the bombardment never stops. It's like having superhuman hearing in a world where everything is screaming. Sleep becomes nearly impossible. Your body generates so much heat that you create permanent warm zones wherever you rest. The water around you stays heated for months after you leave, disrupting weather patterns and confusing marine life. When you do manage to drift off, your dreams are nuclear nightmares filled with splitting atoms and chain reactions. You wake up roaring, and somewhere on the surface, ships report mysterious tsunamis caused by your unconscious movements. The loneliness hits harder than any military weapon ever could. You're not just alone, you're the only one of your kind in the entire universe. There's no one who understands what it's like to be a living atomic bomb. No community of fellow monsters to share your burden. Every other creature flees before you can attempt communication. Whales develop migraines from your voice frequencies. Dolphins won't come within miles of your territory. Even the largest deep-sea creatures avoid the dead zones your radioactive presence creates. Your attempts at companionship become exercises in futility and tragedy. You try approaching other marine iguanas, remembering what you used to be, but your massive size and radiation levels kill them before you can get close. You're too dangerous for friendship, too powerful for peers, too radioactive for any meaningful connection with living things. The isolation becomes a special kind of hell reserved for beings who never asked for godlike power. The destruction follows you everywhere, and it's never intentional. You're not some malicious monster terrorizing cities for fun. You're just trying to exist in a world that's become impossibly fragile compared to your new form. A casual stretch creates landslides. Your heartbeat generates seismic activity. When you surface to see the sky, your footsteps level coastlines, and your movements trigger volcanic activity. You become a walking natural disaster, reshaping geography simply by being alive. Time starts moving differently when radiation makes you essentially immortal. Years blur into decades. Decades stretch into centuries. You watch entire species evolve and go extinct while you remain unchanged, an eternal constant in a world of temporary things. Your perception shifts to geological timescales, where human civilizations rise and fall like seasonal flowers. The weight of endless time becomes another form of torture, especially when every moment is spent in complete isolation. Your body continues changing in unpredictable ways. New abilities manifest randomly like unwanted gifts from a cosmic entity with a cruel sense of humor. Electromagnetic pulse generation, seismic roar capabilities, blood that glows in the dark and never cools. You're evolving beyond any natural blueprint, becoming something that shouldn't exist according to every law of biology and physics. Each new power makes you more isolated, more dangerous, more fundamentally incompatible with the natural world. The ocean floor bears permanent scars from your existence. Underwater mountain ranges flattened by your resting spots, new canyon systems carved by your movements, volcanic activity triggered by your footsteps. You're not just living on the planet, you're actively reshaping it with every breath. The Earth itself has to constantly adjust to accommodate your presence. Like a body fighting off an infection it can never quite eliminate. You develop routines to pass the endless time, but they're all exercises in futility. Swimming laps around entire ocean basins, carving meaningless patterns in abyssal plains with your tail. Testing the limits of your nearly indestructible body in the deepest trenches where pressure would crush anything else into paste. Every activity is solitary, every accomplishment witnessed by no one. Every moment a reminder that unlimited power means unlimited boredom when there's nothing left to challenge or conquer. The radiation that created you continues its work, ensuring you'll never find peace or normalcy. You can't shut off your atomic breath, can't reduce your size, can't lower your radiation output or minimize your environmental impact. You're stuck in this form forever, too powerful to die, too dangerous to live peacefully, too lonely to find meaning in your existence. Every day brings the same choice between destroying things accidentally or hiding in the depths where your presence can't hurt anyone else. This is just the beginning of understanding why being the king of monsters is actually the worst fate imaginable. Because when you're powerful enough to level cities with a sneeze, the real enemy isn't military forces or other kaiju. The real enemy is yourself and the inescapable prison of your own overwhelming existence. Your relationship with humanity becomes the cruelest joke of your around building existence. These tiny creatures SE their civilizations, completely unaware that you're watching from the depths. When you first encounter their cities, there's a spark of hope. Finally, other intelligent beings. Maybe they'll understand. Maybe they can help you figure out what you've become. Instead, they try to kill you. And honestly, you can't blame them. From their perspective, you're a walking apocalypse that emerged from the ocean to level their carefully constructed world. Their weapons tickle at best. Nuclear missiles feel like warm raindrops on your scales. But their fear is real, and it cuts deeper than any blade ever could. You see the terror in their eyes and realize that, to them, you're not a fellow thinking being trapped in a nightmare body. You're just a monster. The military responses become routine after the first few encounters. Tanks roll out, fighter jets scramble, battleships fire everything they've got. You stand there taking the punishment because fighting back would mean genocide, and despite everything, you remember being small and vulnerable once, so you endure their attacks until they exhaust themselves, then retreat to the ocean where their weapons can't follow. It becomes a dance of futility performed across decades. Scientists study you from a distance, but their conclusions sting worse than bullets. They don't see a transformed creature struggling with an impossible existence. They see a threat to be contained, a puzzle to be solved, a weapon to potentially harness. Their research papers describe you in clinical terms that strip away any remaining humanity you might have clung to. Subject exhibits unprecedented cellular regeneration. Entity demonstrates controlled nuclear fusion. Specimen shows signs of advanced intelligence but remains unresponsive to communication attempts. If only they knew how desperately you want to respond. But every time you try to make contact, disaster follows. Your voice operates on frequencies that shatter glass and rupture eardrums. Your attempts at gentle gestures accidentally demolish buildings. When you try to write messages in the sand, your claws carve trenches deep enough to alter coastlines. The harder you try to connect, the more destruction you cause, reinforcing their belief that you're nothing but a mindless destroyer. You watch their world evolve from the shadows. Cities grow larger and more complex. Technology advances at incredible speeds. They reach for the stars, split atoms, map the human genome. Part of you feels proud of these tiny creatures and their remarkable achievements. Another part feels jealous of their ability to grow and change together, while you remain frozen in radioactive isolation. The weight of your immortality becomes more crushing as centuries pass. You remember when mountains looked different, when coastlines followed other patterns, when entire continents sat in different positions. You've outlived ice ages and mass extinctions. Watch stars die and new ones ignite. Your memory becomes a geological archive that no one will ever access. because getting close enough to communicate means certain death for anyone who tries. Your body continues its relentless evolution, developing new abilities that served. Now to make you more isolate no purpose except you can manipulate electromagnetic fields, disrupting every electronic device within hundreds of miles just by existing near them. Your cellular structure has become so alien that even touching dead matter begins breaking down molecular bonds. You're becoming less creature and more living force of nature, which sounds impressive until you realize it means becoming less capable of relating to anything alive. The few creatures that adapt to your radioactive presence become your only companions. And even that relationship is twisted. They're not friends, they're scavengers feeding on the energy you leak, extremophile bacteria that cluster around your resting spots, mutated fish that can survive in your wake, strange new species that exist only because you exist, creating an ecosystem of radiation-adapted life forms. It's the closest thing to family you'll ever have, and it's based entirely on them consuming your toxic byproducts. You develop emotional attachments to geographical features because they're the only constants in your endless existence. This particular trench where you've rested for decades, that underwater mountain range you've accidentally reshaped with your movements, the abyssal plains where you've carved patterns that will outlast human civilization. These places become your friends by default, silent witnesses to your solitary existence who can't flee when you approach. Weather patterns shift around you like you're a living climate system. Your body heat creates permanent thermal layers in the water. Your movements generate currents that affect marine ecosystems thousands of miles away. Meteorologists eventually start tracking your position, not because they care about your well-being, but because your location determines storm systems and ocean temperatures across entire regions. You've become a geographical feature with feelings, a tectonic plate with consciousness. Sleep deprivation becomes another form of torture when your dreams leak into reality. The few times you manage to doze off, your unconscious movements cause earthquakes. Your dream state roars create tsunamis. Your sleeping body generates heat signatures that satellites mistake for volcanic activity. Even a rest becomes an act of environmental destruction. So you train yourself to stay in a state of perpetual half-consciousness, aware enough to control your movements but never truly at peace. The irony of your situation crystallizes over time. You possess the power to reshape worlds, survive in any environment, outlast civilizations, and generate enough energy to power entire continents. You're the ultimate apex predator, the final boss of evolution, a living god among mortals. And you'd trade it all for 5 minutes of normal conversation with another thinking being. All that power, and you can't solve the one problem that actually matters to you. Your atomic breath evolves beyond simple destruction into something resembling art, though no one will ever appreciate it. You learn to modulate the intensity, creating underwater sculptures and rock formations, carving precise geometric patterns that will confuse future archaeologists. It's the only creative outlet available to someone whose every action reshapes the environment. You become the universe's loneliest artist, creating masterpieces in the deepest parts of the ocean where no one will ever see them. The realization hits you somewhere around your 3rd century of existence. This isn't a temporary condition. There's no cure waiting to be discovered, no magic ritual that will shrink you back to normal size, no technology that can drain the radiation from your cells. This is permanent, forever. You will spend eternity as the most powerful and most isolated being in existence. Too dangerous to love and too indestructible to die. So next time you're watching a Godzilla movie and thinking how awesome it would be to have that kind of power, remember this. Behind every earth-shaking roar is a creature screaming into an empty void, hoping someone might understand. Behind every display of atomic fury is a being who just wants to connect with something, anything, that won't immediately die from being near them. The king of monsters isn't a conqueror or destroyer by choice. He's a prisoner of his own impossible existence, trapped forever in a body too powerful for the world to handle and too radioactive for genuine connection. True power isn't about being the strongest or most feared. It's about having the choice to use that strength or put it aside. And that's the one thing Godzilla will never have. Sometimes the greatest curse isn't being weak. It's being so overwhelmingly strong that gentleness becomes impossible, and every moment of your eternal existence is spent holding back the very forces that define you, knowing that one slip means destroying everything you might have cared about.